Hey everyone, Jordan here. The embargo has now lifted for performance and also the rest of the info for the X870 and E motherboards. As I mentioned in the overviews, I'll be using these in builds, so if you want to see anything specific with a certain one, then do let me know and I'll make sure to include it in the relevant build video. So in this one, I'm going to be talking to you about the launch as a whole, give you my thoughts, also the chipsets and what they offer, potentially what to buy, and I've also got a couple of clarifications from the overviews, as there are a few bits we weren't quite sure on, and now we've of course got pricing that we can talk to you about as well. First up, the smallest of the bunch, the STRIX ITX X870-I. Globetech mentioned that there are 2 pins by the PCI slot that act as the power jumper, so you don't need to use the add-in card or the Hive to turn it on or off, so that's a good benefit. And it also looks to be around £400. At the time of filming, that's £20 cheaper than the previous generation X670E, so it offers the new features and is a bit cheaper, so I guess pretty good as a whole, be it a somewhat expensive board. Next up, the Gigabyte X870 AORUS Elite Wi-Fi 7, £270, so I think a pretty fair price for the features. Lovely and stealthy too. I certainly want to do a nice stealth build with that one. Lots of features, and actually is the cheapest board out of the ones you'll see today. We got the Tough X870 Plus. Tough boards generally offer great functionality at a bit more of an affordable price point. This one will be £300. The range is typically a little bit more than the competitor's model of a similar spec, but I've used a lot of the Tough boards on the channel. They've been good performers and they offer good features for the price. Also, being that this is a Plus model, it does make me wonder if we'll see a Pro like we did with the Z790. Now, the board has had a lot of conversation in the comments, that X870E-E STRIX ASUS ROG. This is going to be £460, so the most expensive ATX board by a long shot, but these are generally a more expensive board anyway, as they have a lot of support for storage and I/O. Lastly, we've got the X870 Tomahawk. MSI have added 5GB Ethernet, so great if you've got a home NAS or server. Breakout cable for tidier cable management. There's a 7-segment display, loads of rear I/O. I was very pleasantly surprised with that board, and it looks like one that they've put some time and attention in to see what they can offer the end user over just the features that everyone adds, like Wi-Fi 7 and USB 4. This board's going to be £279, so it's going to be £10 more than the AORUS, but I feel it's going to be my affordable pick of the bunch, and it's going to get my best launch product award, the artwork for that TBD. You will notice that there's no ASRock boards. I did try and get some, and I will continue to do so because they seem to have some really good price to performance options. There's the X870E Nova Wi-Fi. It's going to be £339, which seems like incredible value for an extreme board. So hopefully we can get a look at one of those, because that could be the one to go for if you are looking at an X870E. So those are the clarifications that I wanted to make. Now let's talk about the chipset and my thoughts about the launch as a whole. First, a bit of a lesson if you aren't sure about what X870 and X870 Extreme bring to the table. There are a lot of different numbers and letters. It can get very confusing, especially when you're trying to deal with multiple boards in one video. Multiple takes of this one has been done. Now, the first thing that we've seen from these boards over the B650E and the X670E is the additional Wi-Fi 7 and USB 4. USB 4 is mandatory on this generation chipset. Not all of the X670E boards had a Gen 5 PCI slot. All the X870E now do, but minus those, what else do they have? A lot of these boards have had a lot of quality of life features added. We've seen some quick release latches for PCI and NVMe. The Tomahawk's got a very nice one, little latch that you lock and then unlock. There's also quick release latches for PCI and NVMe, and then quick release and connect antennas for the Wi-Fi. But I'm now going to bring up a little chart that displays all of the current AM5 chipsets that AMD offer. If we look at the X870 and then look to the right of that column, you'll see the amount of lanes and PCIe and NVMe support that they have, which is actually the same as the B650E motherboards. Essentially, X870 uses the same base as the B650E motherboards with a single chipset, then adds USB 4, Wi-Fi 7 and the quality of life additions. So onto X870E, that's got a dual chipset over the single chipset on the X870, which is basically a new version of the X670E motherboards, again with USB 4, Wi-Fi 7 and then a few varying add-ons depending on what the manufacturers fancied adding. Now, what to buy? That's the big question in all of this. If you find that you need the USB 4 or Wi-Fi 7 in your AM5, maybe you edit files for clients and you need the throughput that USB 4 offers, then of course you could go for one of those as an upgrade, the X870 or even the X870E, because then you've got some options for faster drives with it, especially if you're going to use a board like the STRIX here. lots of Gen 5 storage. That could be handy with scratch discs. I feel the high-end ASUS boards could also be good for those that are chasing records. For the ASUS Nitro Path DIMM slots could make for some interesting testing. From the documentation, it seems like the technology that they use could make the difference between running a set of 8400 megatransfers per second kit of memory, where a regular DIMM slot could only support up to 8000. So you can go for another 2 steps in frequency up with your kit. So that's of course something that we'll be trying on our build, but on paper sounds quite interesting. Lastly, if you're looking to go from AM4 and you want the best, then certainly go for an X870E board, especially if you're going to make use of the new additions. However, that being said, if you're not sure what you might need, but would maybe like some future options you can play around with, then X670E will certainly suffice, as there are boards from that generation that can still support multiple Gen 5 NVMe's. And also, like I mentioned previously, even if it doesn't offer Gen 5 PCIe, the GPUs we have now don't make use of all the Gen 4 bandwidth, so you might find that you don't even need Gen 5 anyway. So hopefully all this info has been helpful for you guys. I know this has been a bit of a longer video, but there's just so much to cover with a new launch. And also, if you're on the fence, hopefully you'll be willing to watch through a longer breakdown to get the info you're looking for. And then I also wanted to clarify some of those issues that I've mentioned, because some of them aren't very clear. I'll also leave links for all these boards that I mentioned in the description box below if you want to pick any up. Of course, if there's anything else you want to know, then please leave a comment and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, leave a thumbs up. It does really help me out. Also, get subscribed and ding the bell so you don't miss when those builds go live. Of course, thanks to MSI, Gigabyte and ASUS for sending these boards out for me to look at, and I'll see you all in the next one.